Welcome to the Intuitive Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Rafferty, medical doctor, PhD, Reiki, and shamanic intuitive healer. I'm here to bring you on a journey of holistic healing that explores the science of the physical body combined with mental and emotional well-being, energetic and spiritual health. And I am very, very excited that you're joining us today to chat to Colman Power, an absolute amazing bundle of energy, and someone that I have been following on Instagram for a wee while, just for his knowledge about nutrition, fitness, and everything to do with organic horticulture and how to grow food that sustains a really healthy body and mind. It is such a gift to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Anthony, absolutely no problem at all. I couldn't wait for you to push this green or red button to press record. We have so much information to share with the listeners. So here we go.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, do you want to start off by, I suppose, telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey to get where you're at? Because, obviously when I started following you, you have so much stuff under your belt. It's wild. I feel like it's so crazy when I start telling people about my journey and they're like, you were a marine biologist, you worked with neonatal babies, you worked in pregnancy and fertility. Like, I feel like I was reading something with a very similar slant going, oh my God, look at this guy. He has all this stuff too.
I suppose there's a lot of feathers to the likes of the hat, and I do wear a good few
Yeah.
hats too, I suppose, in itself. But to tell the listeners a little bit about me, in a nutshell, I suppose I'm an organic grower, personal trainer, nutritionist. I'm labeling myself now as the healthiest fella in Ireland. If there's anyone else out there, I'd love to most certainly meet them, either male or female. We could do a competition. It could be really good. We'll make social media content off the back of that. I'm now in the realm of, if not already there, an Instagrammer, an influencer, a social media content creator. And that was something that didn't happen by chance. I've been making videos and building my repertoire over, I'm going to say, the last 6 years. And if you go back to my YouTube, would have been the first thing in record. Like, I was on Snapchat when that was kind of cool and trendy, but I kind of gravitated away from that and went on to more, I'm going to say, long form, then went on to Instagram when I had 300 followers, and now I have 9,000 plus. And again, numbers aren't important, but it just gives you a record of how long either someone has been building. I think success doesn't happen overnight. The idea then on TikTok, there's about 100,000 followers, and I love connecting with people. I love everything to do with, I'm going to say, either nutrition, exercise, and growing your own or my areas of expertise. No, I just live a pretty simple life. I'm a simple man. I do simple things. And for the most part, most people aren't doing the simple things. They're not eating real foods. They're not getting outside. They're definitely not getting enough local produce into the likes of their diet. And they're not sleeping, I'm going to say, on a regular basis, going to bed with the likes of the cycle of the sun, which is, I suppose, one of those things that I did over time, going and doing different health courses, I suppose being a health practitioner myself and passing these tips on in the likes of a book that I wrote during the likes of lockdown called The Power of Organic Fitness. So more and more of the idea of literally just getting back to simpler ways is what I've done over the last kind of 10 years. Started this kind of journey, maybe last, when did it start? But like, I started back being born in 1990. And after that, really the idea of going to college and setting up a market garden in the likes of Cork and selling fruits and vegetables was where it really started.
Yeah. Do you know, obviously, I do a lot of work with people with regard to rehabilitating their gut, actually, because I think it's so interesting with regard to the journey that I suppose marketing and all of these things have had on people in Ireland with regard to kind of what we're told is healthy versus what's actually healthy. And even with the use, I did some posts last week on Instagram with the use of kind of herbicides and glyphosate and all these things that are systematically like destroying people's gut microbiome, which are perceived to be okay for humans to consume. They're sprayed on plants. And it's actually wild with regard to the impact that we're seeing in data now. They might not affect the pathways in the cells of humans, but they absolutely impact the pathways of the cells of the bugs that are living in our gut. So even the foods that we perceive to be healthy, eating a vegetable, if it's been sprayed with a load of crap, we're actually eating and consuming chemicals that are negatively impacting the gut microbiome without us even realizing. So I'd love to hear more about kind of this journey with organic food, the impact that you've seen with your clients, your one-to-one clients, with regard to kind of organic food, why it's better for people compared to non-organic food items, and actually how maybe we'll explore a little bit how people can actually start their journey with organic food.
There are different food items that I highly recommend on different programs that I would run, or just to anybody who's listening right now. It's literally the clean 15, the dirty dozen. Right, the clean 15 is the not necessarily recommended, but also would and does have a skin that we typically don't eat, and is why you can eat them non-organic, or it's not as much of a problem. Okay, so for the likes of, I'm going to say, pineapples, mangoes, avocados are on that list, because we don't typically eat the likes of the skin. We typically eat only the flesh from the inside. So that's probably the list that's definitely on. It's in my book, but it's also listed on my website for free, and it's also on my social media, so you want to check that out. And the idea is, after that, there's the dirty dozen. These are the more important ones to kind of learn off and or add to your diet organically. Those are the ones that are heavily sprayed throughout their life cycle. So take apples are definitely one of them. Potatoes are another. We go with all your greens. That's kale, spinach, and any other, I'm going to say, edible salad, because the chemicals are left on the leaf, right? And it's very hard to remove completely all the chemicals, and some people then aren't washing them properly. But for the most part, you can skip all that effort and either grow your own or buy it. It's the saying that I have, but add organic foods to your diet. So that's definitely, I suppose, something for the most part for people to add in, organic foods that haven't been sprayed with the likes of harsh chemicals such as glyphosate, which is a carcinogenic. And it's like when you see it online or posts to say, it's okay to consume small amounts of glyphosate. I know that what there's small amounts of that I don't want to have in my diet, and glyphosate is definitely not up there. Right? Glyphosate is the likes of the active ingredient found in Roundup. Roundup is commonly used on the periphery edges of your gardens to kill something that's actually so good for your gut health, which is the likes of the dandelion. The whole lot of it is edible. The leaves, the flower, and the likes of the root. Dandelion coffee, an amazing alternative to coffees, and is something that's anti-inflammatory and contains a type of fiber called inulin. Your beneficial gut bacteria love foods that contain inulin. Also found in common vegetables, onions, garlics, leeks. And an absolute classic one that I wrote about is the likes of your Jerusalem artichokes and yacon. There's a 5. If you haven't heard about that, we can talk about that very, very shortly. So that's very interesting. After that, to, I suppose, inform people, not to scare them. I do not, and forever from now on, as much as I know, to my knowledge, will not consume a non-organic apple. They can be sprayed up to 10 times in a growing season. That's literally frightening. But it's also really, really simple to get organic apples and or grow your own. So I coach people online in different programs to improve, not only necessarily, a lot of people always focus on weight loss, I focus on health gain, which is really, really important, and actually something that a lot of people actually don't do enough of. So the idea is really planting an apple tree in your garden in a pot. 1, 2, you can have a self-pollinated one. We can go deeper into growing if we choose to do so in this podcast. So the idea is you dig a hole, you put in a tree, you do nothing else. In 3 years' time, you can have up to 100 apples. And the best apple tree to most certainly buy for yourself isn't the one that's called Pink Lady. It's not Gala. It's more so the likes of, I'm going to say, Katie, John O'Go Red, L-Star, and or Discovery. All old traditional varieties that are suited to Irish conditions, that are much less likely to get the likes of any pest or disease damage on it, because one of the most common problems with people going into garden centres, they buy something that's been shipped over from Central Europe. The man in the garden centre is 17 and a half years old. He says the half because he nearly wants to be 18. And as a result, that hasn't a Scooby-Doo where the tree is from. He hasn't a clue about where it came from. He knows nothing about it, but he's interested in growing, and fair play to him for getting off his ass and actually doing the job in the first place. But that's just the situation that we're in Ireland at this moment in time, or any other European country. The idea is getting things that are suited to your conditions. And apples, Irish apples grow amazing. Like Bramley is a great cooking apple, and it's something that literally is so good for the likes of you gaining better skin health, which comes off the back of pectin, which is a fiber found in the likes of the skins of the apples, and that you can really gain massive advantages from by having typically just coming out of the likes of the cooler, I'm going to say, conditioned winter months that we've had, and they come into season for a reason. So we're talking about simple, practical things for families and anyone else who wants to improve their health in 2025 or whenever you listen to this podcast. It won't ever change, right? Grains, such as simple as oats. So oat is a grain that is and if it's non-organic, will be sprayed 100% because it speeds up the harvesting process. Just imagine a grain. I'm trying to make it as visual as I possibly can. Standing in a field, you want to have the whole thing to dry off at the same time. You just run your tractor with the booms out left and right of it. It will spray off literally glyphosate, that carcinogenic, has been found to be carcinogenic, toxic chemical on that crop. In a week's time, that's prime time for the non-organic farmers to harvest that, all fully dried, because it's literally dried off, and it's literally the grain then. And people say, oh, it's only small amounts that are found in that. Again, small amounts of like this inflammatory chemical you don't want in your body. However, there are definitely better options that you can get. There are probably my favorite. It's 100% gluten free. I know people say oats are gluten free. Yeah, but if you are someone who's extremely intolerant, which just goes down to the gut health kind of specialist area that I am, you will, if you have small amounts from one harvester harvesting, let's say barley, wheat, or rye that may have, I'm going to say, a small bit of gluten in it, then it goes to the harvest the oats, which are gluten free naturally, and that small amount would cause someone with, I'm going to say, a lot of issues. So it's best to obviously go to a 1 mil small producer, which the likes of Kevin from the Merry Mill is based in Laois, and delivers straight to your door. I don't get literally, I'm going to say, money for mentioning these guys, but it's literally what I recommend to people on a daily basis for literally better health. You support the guys who are literally doing it, and they will literally give you the best foods that they possibly can to not only beneficial for you, but also be beneficial for the environment.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like this journey with, well, this is the thing, I suppose, with regard to how we live our life now. It's just so quickly paced. We consume things at such a high rate. It's actually ridiculous. And uh, it's so interesting because before I moved back to Dublin, I was living in the countryside and I had lots of land there, space to grow. We had a polytunnel, all these bits and pieces. And you put so much love and effort into growing your own organic veg. If I was to get a handful of 4 or 5 cherry tomatoes, I would cherish every one of those cherry tomatoes. I'd cherish a tomato because it tasted good. I grew that myself. It was a gift that was given to me by nature. Whereas actually, when I go into the store, you're buying 5 or 6 tomatoes wrapped in microplastics, totally unnecessarily. The nutrient content of the tomato is much poorer, and it's been sprayed with a load of crap. So you're getting microplastics, you're getting chemicals, and a nutrient poor fruit that's been grown. And just the thing is, when you bring them home, you're going to eat all 6 tomatoes like you're consuming anything else at a rapid rate. It doesn't have the same value as a tomato that you've grown on the vine yourself. It just blew my mind. It completely changed my view of how I consumed when I actually was growing my own food. Does that make
Totally.
sense?
Like people are, and if you grow a carrot and the carrot happened to fork for whatever reason, might have hit a rock, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to usually eat the whole lot of that. But if you get it in the store, you don't have any mass on it. It doesn't matter to you. And in fact, you're not going to choose that. But the idea is you will literally use every piece of that, I'm going to say, carrot. And you even might look up the recipe because you grew it yourself of how to actually use the stalks, because you sow typically carrots in the month of April. You harvest April, May. You go May, June, July, August, September. 5 months later, that is a lot of days, right? For people to literally look after, water, weed, harvest, wash, bring in, and by God, eat the skin, because that's where most of the fiber is found on every different fruit and vegetable. But also,
Mm.
it's also where most of the chemicals are found if it's non-organic. So there's the benefit, but also be wary of the likes of the negatives when it's a non-organic food item. But again, I'm literally getting people to improve their diet as best they possibly can. Not eating is not a healthy option. Like, we can talk a little bit about diets as well.
Mm.
Intermittent fasting, before you understand your basic nutrition, is literally the catalyst for binge eating. Binge eating, we typically don't binge eat on broccoli or the likes of carrots for that matter. It's ultra processed foods, which gets you caught up in, I thought this was good, now I'm starving, now I'm reaching for whatever. And it's always whatever's convenient, right, is in when we have to, because that's the system we're set up in now. A petrol station where all
Mm.
the bright colors are in front of us, the wrong type of bright colors. It's those candy bars and or protein bars, which are glorified chocolate bars anyway in the first place. So
Mm.
that's where we're caught. So like, not eating is not a healthy option. So start with literally eating whole foods, and then incorporate in one more single ingredient food to your diet would definitely be my approach.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Like, it's quite fascinating in loads of ways when you actually start learning about these things and going on the journey with these things. Like, I think the reason that I ended up going so deep into gut health work myself was because my gut was absolutely destroyed. Obviously, I grew up in Ireland, and in all honesty, I don't think, like, as an ancestry, we necessarily have. We had lovely connection to the land previously, but as we've evolved through the lineages, we've lost touch with that in a lot of ways. And actually, we're eating a lot of things, like you say, that are easy, processed, and just wreaking havoc on the body. And so obviously I had a background of that, and then going through my teens and early 20s, I started drinking. That totally destroyed my gut as well. And then, of course, you end up kind of finding your way back to the gym, and I started absolutely smashing protein. I was having 2 or 3 protein shakes a day, not realizing the crap that was contained in those. And even just the way, concentrated whey just used to hit my stomach and absolutely decimate my microbiome. I used to get so much inflammation. I didn't even know what inflammation was. I remember going to the GP being like, I actually feel like my body's on fire. I was like, I feel like something's wrong with me. My skin is irritated. I was getting welts. My gums used to be irritated. And as I was like drinking, knocking back my protein shakes because I thought it looked make my body look good, I was kind of going, my body actually feels like it's on fire. And everybody was like, you're grand, you're grand. The GPs are like, I think you're actually mad. Your body isn't on fire. I didn't realize that was my alarm bells. You are suffering from deep inflammation here from the cocktail of what you're consuming, you know? So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, when you bring someone on an organic journey through your one-to-one training, what does protein intake look like? I know people are consumed with protein intake, and we're so fiber deficient more so. But like when it comes down to like supplements that people use, going to the gym, protein shakes, all these things, what does that look like on
Yeah,
a
I
journey
suppose
with
that's
you?
a great question in itself. A lot of people, right, they will ask me, Coleman, what supplements do you take, or what protein supplements? The first thing you should literally be looking at is getting your protein source from food sources that have one ingredient that have been eaten for centuries, and doing your best to get it local, doing your best to get it organic. So I'd always stress to that. And people would get a list of food items. It's never, I'm going to say, a diet that I would ever suggest, or more so the likes of, I'm going to say, you have to eat these foods. You pick and choose the ones that you like, and that's what's going to will help you to make it a lifestyle of eating real foods. Then it's the likes of the carbohydrates, the exact same way, whether it's potatoes, whether it's quinoa, whether it's bulgur wheat, whether it's breads, and there's definitely different topics. We can break it down to bread again being coming from a grain. There's sourdough bread, which is a fermented food item, which is a natural probiotic, which is so beneficial to your gut health, which has a knock-on effect to increasing the beneficial microorganisms, which then lead to more energy being broken down from the nutrients of the foods that you typically eat, and gives you a kickback of you having more energy to put into the likes of your day-to-day tasks, whether it's with friends, family members, or work colleagues. And more often not people that end up working with, you actually end up getting a raise out the other side of it.
Yeah. Well, so I suppose if we look at kind of where the conversation's going, we explored kind of the benefits of organic food, and the environmental working group, as you say, released this clean 15 and dirty dozen list, and that's a fantastic starting point for people. We explored kind of glyphosate as a herbicide and the chemicals that are sprayed in the process of non-organic food production. And Colman, I'd love to hear a little bit about actually what genetically modified food is and how has it ended up in our food system. And like, so it's almost like we have to be worried about chemicals and the genetic modification of food. So where do we go with these things? I think it's so important that we're discussing this because people might not be aware that some of the foods are sprayed, first of all, and some of them are genetically modified. So tell me about GMO.
Yeah, GMO again is something that's genetically modified to be able to tolerate the likes of chemicals, such as that main one that we've kind of discussed in this week's podcast. The idea is it's something that is typically used for either soya and or corn, right? And those are then fed to animals such as cattle, and that's on a larger scale for the most part. So if you are, remember, buying something organic, it can registered organic, it cannot use the likes of genetically modified seeds. So that's something to well worth note in the back of your mind if you're worried about the likes of those things that, and often this would be mentioned and labeled, and looking at the labels of food items that you see in stores are what I'd always recommend. So it's non-GMO or non-GMO grain is something that's well worth having a look out for in going into the new year. So that's something that's then fed to the animals. The animals then are stressed, and as a result of that, then we have that knock-on effect in ourselves. So definitely looking at and sourcing your foods as locally as you possibly can.
And that's the thing, I think. When we kind of move more towards organic eating and eating stuff that's nutritionally good for us, like I say, we kind of move away from the consumerism aspect of it and actually just consuming large quantities of stuff that aren't as good for us. But also, we actually form more of a connection. Like, I love this sense of community. Because I think most of the clients that I work with now, when I bring them on a journey, obviously it's about maximizing the plant-based diversity in the diet, looking at kind of whole foods with regard to as much organic food as possible, moving away from things that are heavily processed, obviously looking at organic if we can, non-GMO, but also on a more kind of emotional part of the journey outside of just the physical, how we can nourish the body. What does it look like to be actually more of a sense of a community, actually connecting with the land, connecting with the people who grow these beautiful foods for us, and actually connecting with other people within the community that are kind of can support you on that journey as well. And it's so wild because actually, so I talk a lot about this. I actually created a gut health course, which we launched a couple of months ago. And we've had loads of people moving through that course now and actually just educating people about the gut microbiome and nutrition that's appropriate for their body and their mind, keeping their hormones happy. But it's amazing because actually part of the journey through the course involves actually connecting with the land. Like, we could not exist without Mother Earth. So although she nourishes the fruits and the veg and all these gorgeous things that grow in the land, we are literally synergistically connected to the land. We would not be able to live and function without the land. So I just find it so fascinating and heartbreaking in so many senses that actually how we treat this absolutely incredible resource just blows my mind, you know?
Yeah. Without the soil, we can't. Without healthy soil, right, we can't really grow healthy food. So that's why it's so important. These small growers all throughout Ireland are literally have the skills, and it's a dying trade. I'm so lucky I learned it.
Like, I love that you're talking about kind of being able to grow in a way that actually promotes soil health is a dying breed. And, it's even, I've started to learn the Bowron recently, right? I just have this draw back to connect with our Irish ancestry. And I'm obsessed with it. I love it. Every night I'm just like banging away on my Bowron. But I've started looking at all these videos online of like all these incredible Bowron players. And, they're kind of talking about that people used to get together in the community and they used to grow together and like they'd all give each other advice and they're tending to the land and then meeting and playing music together. And I literally, like, I was watching these videos last night. I was like, my mind is blown. I absolutely love it. And it's so sad we've lost it. So, I would love to hear about kind of how did people know to tend to the land and what are we losing with regard to this knowledge?
They know and have, I suppose, come from heritage families, right? Same like the seeds, heritage seeds that literally needed the land to survive and thrive more so. They had to do it for looking after potatoes and looking after their health. We were a much healthier generation, okay, 50 years ago, because we grew our own potatoes, we grew our own carrots, we touched the soil so much more. Now there's kids afraid to literally, say touch anything dirty, and there's sprays out there that hit, I'm going to say, a counter that kill 99.9% of all the bloody bacteria that's out there. There's good and bad bacteria they're killing there as well, same as in your gut. So the idea is you need to get back to the likes of the simple lifestyle that you know deep down in you. And it's funny, Anthony, that you're going back to the Bower on. I'm dyslexic and I didn't have to do Irish. I've started to learn it this year. Colman, the prayer Sanam Dum, Tá ag ober sa Gardine, Tá Ismail on Prati Kabashta, August Bakun Sadiner. Like I've learned off a couple of sentences because I love Ireland. I love literally the land. I love being healthy. And the idea is, if anyone was listening to this podcast, I'm sure that they want to be at least 1% healthier, and you definitely will be.
He's connected to the land and he's speaking Irish. Oh God! Well, I got Duolingo to start trying to learn again. Because I was like, I need to speak our native language again. So I totally need to find out where you're doing your Irish lessons, and I'll come and join you for an bit of Gaeilge.
Brilliant.
I'll play the bear on afterwards. It'd be great.
That'd be amazing. Like because at different events, right? So at the likes of that cycle, I didn't even leave you in on the tip. I'm glad I came back around full circle. So we've cycled the likes of the west coast of Ireland, and this year, right, you are getting the golden inside scoop. Okay, we haven't even announced it yet. We didn't pick the farm. So if you're a farm or know a farmer on the likes of this regenerative or organic on the east coast, starting from Donegal, hopefully finishing in Waterford, still to be decided. But for the most part, definitely heading down that east coast. Get in contact. So we are doing that on the same principle of we're trying to connect as many people on these lovely green isles, all 32 counties of them, plus some more if they get thrown in the mix, and getting the best foods that literally you can get in Ireland on your plate.
Amazing. And so it's interesting. You just talked there about regenerative farming. Like this is a term that's becoming quite, I suppose, a hot topic these days. I'd love to know what the difference is between regenerative farming and organic farming.
That's a great question. And it is exactly that. It's becoming trendy. It was like organic 5, 10, maybe years ago. So the word organic is a registered term. Okay. That means if I want to sell produce, okay, right now where I'm currently based in Waterford, and if I was selling the produce right at the gate, or I want to sell to a shop, I could not use the word organic if I wasn't registered with two of Ireland's only registered governing bodies. That's the likes of IOFCA and the likes of Organic Trust. And how you know something is registered organic, just quickly looked around the room to see that I see anything organic. It's a green registered logo on the back of yogurt, fish, chicken, eggs, fruits, vegetables, whatever, cereal, the item, oats, the item may be. So that's what you look out for, something to be fully registered organic. So that's the organic word. The word regenerative isn't a registered term, but is someone that uses those methods and maybe some more to sell a produce that again is super beneficial for you and it's super beneficial for the land. It's a way of not being registered because some people do find it difficult. Farmers that are still in growing to fill in, because a lot of paperwork, lads, if it involves in anything, anyone knows now, whether you're going into the guards to fill in guard vetting, there's a huge amount of paperwork just alone for that. It's even worse, and there's a fee involved for being registered as organic, but it's a logo that people wear in pride, and there is probably in the very near future going to be a registered term for the likes of regenerative. And what makes it slightly different is one is registered organic and regenerative is not, but still something that is super beneficial. And the idea is, if people often say, Colman, can I trust the likes of organic growers, or that green little logo that you talked about, or the word organic written on the front of it? The idea is you have to trust somebody. If you don't trust the likes of the supermarket, so it has the green logo registered and it's some farm that you haven't heard about or that I haven't touched base with or showed up on my social media very recently, the idea is you have to trust somebody. Go and connect with the local farmer at the country market and literally ask, and because they would love and do love their farms, and they're typically family run. It's not a huge commercial thing, especially at the country markets. They're not making tippins, and that's why I came out of it. Because making money from fruits and vegetables, that's what I did. I didn't have meat, didn't have hens at the time. The idea is it's very hard because you're competing with people's pockets. That's what it is. But you have to really love it. You have to really value your health and know the difference. The difference is in the flavor. Everybody knows as soon as they have anything organic, whether it's, I'm going to say, meats, eggs, fruits, vegetables, apples, and tomatoes are one of the easiest ones for fruits and vegetables because that's my game. And I've tried and tested getting people to try it. And once they try it, they don't want to go back to the other SH1T.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally understand that. And is there anywhere that anybody can see a list of where there might be organic or regenerative farming that people can kind of actually see, oh my God, well, where can I access these places to actually start changing how I approach my kind of community support and also my health?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And I don't know, I wouldn't even have mentioned it only for you, Anthony. So that's very well done on you, right? Being a good podcasting, I'm going to say, host. The idea is there is, and that's something that I'm working on in my spare time. So there's a new collaboration of a company that we're merging together called Grounded. It's highlighting all those farms across Ireland, and to do that, they have to apply and fill in a form, and obviously fit the category of being organic and/or regenerative, one or the other. Looking after and using regenerative methods such as using farm manure, using seaweed, or other natural methods like nettles, which are naturally high in nitrogen that are sprayed onto the fields in a liquid feed. So that's one to definitely look out at. It's grounded in soil. It is on Instagram. But if anyone's unsure, definitely check me out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. It's my name, Colman, C-O-L, Colman de Puer, Colman Power is my name. And I'll point you, if you're unsure about anything, just send me a message. I will message and do message everybody back. I'm not at the realm of, oh, I have this thing that sends. I'm not in the office right now. Maybe get back to me something Monday, Tuesday, on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I see a message, I go in when I'm on the social media, and I will shoot you back, typically a voice note, because I misspell so much of my content. People are like, is that fella drunk? I'm dyslexic, and I just voice note people because it makes it easier for me. So if you're unsure, ask the right question to the right person, you will get the right answer. But Grounded in
Right.
Soil
Okay.
is the new place to check out for regenerative farms. And then if you say, oh, my local farm isn't on it, yes, that's what we want. I want you to tell me there's a farm missing there and add them into the map. It's a map of Ireland with all the different farms that literally are regenerative and organic. That helps people so much.
Amazing. So grounded in soil. So if people Google that, they'll be able to find out what the crack is and find out where their local organic and regenerative farms are. And yeah, just I love as we're finishing up, just to recap with regard to the our journey with organic food. We've discussed everything to do with glyphosate. I love it. Um, we've explored GMO, how people can get started with starting to eat organic, the lists that you've created, and we've talked about nutrition all the way through this. I would love to, just before we wrap things up, to hear more, or just even to tell us a little bit about the one-to-one work that you do, because I know that you, on your website, your Instagram, you can see that Colman runs these gorgeous growing workshops and teaching people how to actually learn how to grow from scratch, which is such a skill and a tool in and of itself, and it's so empowering. Like when I learned how to grow some veggies, oh my God, I made a mess of things. I was putting stuff in on top of each other and growing them too close and all the rest, but Jesus, it was great crack, and you learn. And so I'd love to just for you to tell us about that, and also your one-to-one, if people want to work with you as a personal trainer. What does that kind of look like, and how can they get in touch?
Yeah, Anthony, super grateful for even giving me the opportunity to touch on that point. So my one-to-one coaching, I suppose, is different from the majority of others, just due to the fact it's not all about weight loss. It's more so about health gain, that I did touch on this podcast already. But it's a one-to-one service that really tailors exercise, and not only that, foods that really suit you and the likes of your gut. I love having my calls one-to-one with someone, either on a Monday morning or Tuesday or whatever day of the week that really suits, because some people are flat out on a Monday and they don't have time because they have kids or there's other commitments involved in it. You literally get me through the likes of, I'm going to say, WhatsApp. There's accountability. There's different, I'm going to say, meals that I send to you that are, I'm going to say, broken down with proteins, fats, and carbs in a balanced way that helps you to have as much energy levels that you most certainly need to be at optimal energy levels throughout whatever tasks that have to be kind of done in itself. And the idea is it's kind of a one-to-one connection with a person, as opposed to an app, as opposed to anything else. And it's definitely not any diet. I get people to understand food at its basic level, whether you're growing a little bit of your own. There's also tips involved in that too. You get me as a person, as opposed to a robot, which most people want right now. The connection. We've lost the connection with the land. We've lost connection with the people. So if anyone would want to work with someone who's massively passionate, has motivation to literally give to you in abundance. And I love to either just most certainly and do take people on for a one-to-one free call, discovery call. And after that, we work together typically for a number of weeks to help them to reach their fitness goals, whether it's going to say toning up, whether it's losing weight, or just improving the likes of their understanding of diets or binge eating, which often kind of happens just through to misinformation from other social media content. And in a nutshell, that's typically, I suppose, what I offer people on a regular basis.
Well, Colman, it's been so amazing to chat to you. You've such a gorgeous, infectious energy, and it's just so inspiring. I love meeting people that are passionate about health, passionate about the land, passionate about our connection to food, and it's just so important that we have these conversations to actually make people aware of what it's like to actually be in connection with the food that you're eating and the land and the community that actually grow it for you. You know, we've such a disconnect these days. And on an energetic level, because I work as an energetic healer as well, you can see that in the root chakra. You can see we are disconnected from the land that we actually live on. You know, like our roots aren't deep anymore, you know, and there's such wounding in the root chakra, causes a lot of disturbance within the body, you know. So I think it's so amazing to be able to have connected with you. I'm so grateful for the chats. And for everybody that's listening, we'll pop up Colman's details in the show notes, and absolutely don't hesitate to reach out to him. He's been a pleasure to engage with over Instagram messaging. And yes, we will chat to you again soon. Thank you so much for joining us, Colman.
Thank you much for having me.